I'll read the question.
I started to walk all the way there.
Okay, this is a long one. If elected, knowing that so many people are opposed to the council-approved rezoning for multifamily, would you want to change this? If no, why? And if yes, why? And how would you do it?
Yes, I would want to change that. The reason I would want to change that is because that's not a good idea to rezone all of that property coming into Little Elm to be multifamily, because it needs to be zoned for commercial so that we can bring in commercial businesses there. Read the rest of that question.
If elected, knowing that so many people are opposed to the council-approved rezoning for multifamily, would you want to change this? If no, why? If yes, why? And how would you do it?
No, we should not have it zoned the way it is. And what I would do about it is, I think I would get a petition of how many people in Little Elm are also against that. I also would do whatever we have to do to get this changed.
I'm not totally up to speed with the situation. I understand this is the apartment complex. Based on what I've heard, I don't agree that that's the best idea from what they're going to charge in those apartments. I believe people could afford a house here. And I would like to see, I understand there might be a short-term financial gain for the city, but strategically down the road, I would love to have a commerce, some type of form of business there that could help us out with the taxes. So I would vote against it, and I would just follow the process.
I was one of many citizens of Little Elm who stood up that night and spoke out against the changing of the zoning of 110 acres from commercial to residential. It simply made no sense for the town. And the fact that the majority, and not just a small majority, but practically everyone present, whether they were from Frisco or Little Elm, was opposed to it, should have given our council pause. Now, how we're going to change that? That will not be an easy task. It will be a long, hard road. It is possible that we will be sued by Frisco. It is possible that we will be sued by the developer when it is changed. But I think it is something that definitely must be changed in order to have any integrity at all as a council and as a governance of the Little Elm.
As far as when people say, when most feel that this is not a good idea, and through my canvassing, I've asked people, hey, how do you feel about the land usage on 423? And I have gotten mixed responses, and quite honest, a good bit of responses were, I'm okay with it. But I'm on the Planning and Zoning Board, and I did vote for it. Here's some reasons why. Basically, the land usage will allow, basically, sales tax revenue to just skyrocket. It will gain more support within the local and commercial businesses that will develop within our city. Along with that, you have alternative living for various residents who want to move in the Little Elm area. Now, my experience in the MDU community, because I am the MDU marketing rep with the company I work for, the concessions that we set for these MDU communities does not allow anyone other than the A community to build there, because the apartments per acre does not make it conducive for anyone, a B or C property builder, to build there and get a return on the investment.
Believe it or not, that was something that was brought up to my attention before somebody even knew that I was hoping to run for council. They came in to talk to me about how they were at that meeting, how that's their neighborhood, and they were so upset that change had been made. Me, I drive by that area all the time, and I think this is such beautiful property. I can't believe we're going to turn it into housing or retail. Why not leave it open space and make us a nice park? Because most of the people on that side of town don't know this side of town exists, or that there's a park downtown that they can come and use. And it wouldn't hurt us to have another open area to reduce, well, I guess for smog control, whatever. I would like to see open area, because where I lived in Chicago, there were thousands of acres that we put in between, just to make sure that we kept pollution risks down and kept more healthy community there. Multifamily, if it's going to be there, I'd rather see it be townhomes than apartments, so people have ownership and want to take care of it.
Well, I'm a little biased on this issue. My backyard faces that particular rezoning issue, so maybe you understand why I'm running. However, one of the things that I want to say as far as change goes, I took time to go down to El Dorado and the Tollway, and you guys may know that little Home Depot that's over there, and right there are some Class A apartments, right against those homes. And I talked with that community. The people who own the homes were saying they were having difficulties finding ways to sell that home because there's a big thumbprint right there. One of the ladies on the 3rd floor of that apartment complex was gracious enough, Lord knows why she let me in, but she did, so that I could look on her balcony, which was facing adjacent to the homes. And if you looked to the left of her balcony, you could see into those neighbors' homes. Now, let's talk about what I've done even before the vote came in. I presented a proposal for alternatives. I tried to bring in single-family home developers to talk with them. I tried to get an environmental study put into place so we could find out how that creek that's facing up against part of that property is going to impact that flood zone. Anybody here ever drive on the back of that Witt Road and see that sucker flood? Fantastic, isn't it? All right, and so the idea is that it's not just what you do after you get in, it's what you can do beforehand. I work to get that done. When I get in, I'm going to work to get that thing reversed.
Well, as many of you know, Councilman Grant and I were the only ones that voted against it. And as I mentioned in my opening statement, the reason I voted against it was not so much that I have anything against multifamily housing, but I heard from our constituents that didn't want it. I didn't hear from anybody that wanted it. So that's just the way I have operated. That's the way I will continue operating in the future, listening to the voters. As far as what will we do in the future, I think if there's any change that comes about, it will probably come from Frisco. We're playing with the big guys with unlimited amounts of money. They have requested a stack of files from the town about that thick, all correspondence dealing with this project. Anything that any council person had, the emails we got, they're reviewing that, and my guess is that sometime in the future there's going to be a lawsuit. They're going to find something to hang their hat on. And if change comes about, my guess is that's the direction it would come from.
I think it's maybe one of the decisions that you'd have to stick with your guns that nobody liked. Just from what I've seen, other Class A type apartments, I don't see that there's a problem over there with that because of the caliber of apartments. Yeah, you can't make everybody happy in the town. You know, honestly, if I was up against it, close to where I wouldn't want it there either, because I wouldn't look in my backyard. That's when we built on, and since that point, back it's at Corps of Engineering property, because I had a similar experience in past life with that. But a Class A apartment complex like we see in Frisco, they're not apartment complexes. The people are driving high-end cars. You know, they may be people who don't want to do yard work, who have jobs where they travel and don't have those type of responsibilities for a home. So, you know, they need a place to live also, and you know, that's maybe Frisco. I don't know why they, you know, they don't want to have the school taxes. Maybe they should have the school board boundaries changed. I'm sure that would be a basket of all kinds of mess. So anyhow, that's my opinion. Thank you.
If I could just, would that be a yes or no?
Oh, I would be. I would not change it. Sorry.
All right.
Would you like me to walk all the way over there for that one last question?
No,
I'll give you permission to flip it.
Select it for you.
That's the one I would have picked. Thank you.
This would be an easy one, because y'all have talked about this all night, off and on. What do you think could be done to prevent our property taxes from being raised again, which we're already hearing they're going to be raised again this year, which will put us higher, I have to speak this out, than the whole area surrounding us? And we have been raised 5 times in the past 5 years, and it has doubled what it was 5 years ago. So, what do you think could be done to prevent our property taxes being raised again?
Wow, I'm really not used to being able to go first. So you guys are going to have to piggyback off me for a little while. Everything possible. I am not well versed in the exact acts I would take to lower our taxes, and I'm afraid I would start sounding like a politician if I did. Economic growth. Get somebody else to carry the burden. Anything we could do, I'm all in favor. And any suggestions the citizens offer, I will follow. But honestly, at this point, I am not well versed enough to respond to a specific plan of action.
I will become less popular right now than I am at Town Hall. One of the things that's drastically increased is administrative costs for the town of Little Elm. As it has in many businesses, we have grown and grown and grown in that area. There's not an office space available. We have increased number of directors. We have increased the pay for directors. We have increased the pay for the town manager. We have increased in that area. We have increased expenditures drastically without bothering to add policemen to the ground and firemen to the fire stations. We have increased administrative costs. For immediate tax relief, that would be one area that I would attack immediately.
I think a good bit of that, part of that question, one part is to find out and educate ourselves on why the plan to raise the taxes. And more or less why is important, because if it doesn't make sense, who can argue? However, if you're asking me how can I stop it, basically one way is to increase internal commercial growth, increase the sales tax revenue, things of that nature will supplement the effect of having to raise taxes. Now, one way to do that is, of course, is creating an environment to where that people will shop here, people will stay here, and that's a long-term process. That's something that's not going to definitely happen overnight. But that's one plan that you can put into effect and basically set a foundation to where that we can stop the raising of taxes through other sources and other ways of revenue stream.
I'm going to have to go with George on this. I'm not all that deep into the politics of taxes, other than having to pay them all the time and not liking it. Noticing since I've been here, not a whole lot of things have opened up. We got a Valero and a Sonic around the corner from me, 7-Eleven up here by the stadium, and 24-hour fitness in that little building. Other than that, nothing new's happened, except our roads have gotten torn up. We spent more money. We're talking about hiring more staff at Town Hall, getting bigger government, less services. I think just start there. Increase business, reduce administration.
Well, I'm a little rusty on my Texas Government 101. However, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but if your taxes do go up on property more than 8%, you can do a recall vote and get them reverted back to their previous level. The second thing is, let's talk about spending responsibly. We just dropped $1 million to put solar panels on our town center hall business, right? And granted, some people will argue, hey, $800,000 of that's going to come from a government grant. The government does not produce anything. They do not sell anything. Their money comes from your taxes, borrowing money, all right, and other sources that basically, they've made you pay for this twice. So the $800,000 or so that's coming from the grant, minus the difference in the $1 million, which is coming from Little Elm taxes, are going to pay for that. Is that responsible spending? No. That's one of the things that I think that lead to the contribution of why your taxes go up. And so my key is fighting, for all intents and purposes, cover your ears if you're too young, the BS. Okay? Just making sure that your money is spent responsibly. I can't spell it out any clearer. Thank you.
I don't want to end on a negative note, but I take exception a little bit to some of the statements in that question. First of all, the Colony, which is maybe a comparable town, and Prosper, which might be a comparable town, have very comparable tax rates. One is just a little bit higher, one is just a little bit lower than Little Elm. So we do compare. I don't think anybody can in any way use Bristol as a measuring stick. There's too much variations. The other thing that I would take a little bit of exception with is, I'm not sure where the statement comes from that we heard the taxes are going to go up, but I'm on the town council. I haven't heard anybody tell me that. We're going to start the budgeting process. To me, that sounds like some kind of campaign rhetoric. It sounds like a rumor that maybe got started, and rumors sometimes get started.